Hey, inspired moneymaker. This All-American played in the NFL for the Detroit Lions, Buffalo Bills, and Pittsburgh Steelers. Today, he's focused on the intersection of professional athletes and money. Episode 259 features Jonathan R. Scott, athlete, author, investor.
Now, I got to do one or two things. Get some income during the off season, or pray next season I can be able to get on the 53-man roster to where I can get a league minimum salary of, depending on how long you've been in the league, of like $300,000 or $400,000 a year at the bare minimum, or have a breakout season to where someone offers you a multi-million-dollar contract. All right, but just like anything else, the more if you don't have the mentality, if you make more money, you're just going to spend more money, right? If you don't have the right mentality. So at the end of the day, what it really boils down to, it's not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep.
I'm Andy Wong, host of the Inspired Money podcast, where we share positive perspectives on money so we can have a bigger impact in our communities and in the world. This episode is brought to you by my company, Runnymede Capital Management. At Runnymede, individuals, families, and business owners hire us to invest their money through full market cycles. Not only do you need to set your investment goals, but we need to assess the risk in the stock market. Simply stated, when the economy is accelerating, that's the opportune time to take more risk for higher returns. But when the economy is slowing and there's a recession coming, it pays to be defensive and protect what you have. Our goal is to be defensive ahead of financial hurricanes. This year, we officially called a hurricane alert on our April 2022 client conference call. If you want insights into our market outlook, go subscribe to my email that goes out every 2 weeks. You can subscribe at inspiredmoney.fm/newsletter. Our guest is Jonathan, a 10-year veteran of the NFL as an offensive tackle. He was also a member of the 2005 National Champion Texas Longhorns football team. His life off the field has been as successful on the field, with experiences in real estate, finance, education, coaching, executive leadership, and the music industry. Jonathan is co-author of the Winning Playbook, Strategies for Life on and Off the Field. In this episode, you'll learn about the personal finances of NFL football players, the benefits of using different investment vehicles for tax planning, and make sure you stay tuned to the end to hear why Jonathan suggests building a team of personal advisors. Now let's get inspired with Jonathan R. Scott. Jonathan, welcome to Inspired Money. I'm so excited to have you on the show.
I appreciate it. It's definitely a pleasure. Look forward to talking about all great things.
Right on. Let's jump right in. What's your earliest childhood memory of money?
My earliest childhood memory. I definitely have to say, I think it was the first time my father allowed me to count money at the register and like ask for change and know how much money I was supposed to get back. So I think that was my first encounter. And it was a big thing because it was like, oh man, I got to make a real transaction, and this is real. I'm putting everything on the line. So it was pretty cool. That was definitely my first encounter.
That's like handing the car keys to the kid. Like, you get to drive. Here's the money.
Right, and it was one of those things, knowing what to expect when it comes to change, knowing the actual dollar bill and what type of coins I was supposed to get back. So it was a big accomplishment, and I got it right. So that was cool.
Jonathan, your dad played for the New York Jets. You're 6'6", over 300 pounds. Did you feel destined to play professional football?
You know what? Now, hindsight is 2020. I can definitely say now I was destined to play because I realized, looking back and just, reflecting on a lot of things. When I was a kid in middle school, I remember at that moment I manifested that I would play in the NFL. And it was a cool experience because Emmitt Smith came to our middle school and talked to us and told us that we could, whatever we put our mind to, we can do. And sure enough, it was so believable. And I said, you know what? I want to play in the NFL. No, I'm going to play in the NFL. So at the moment, I had no plan. I was just, I just want to, right? But I think it was something that was deeply embedded in my my subconscious and conscious mind, and I just said, you know what, I'm going to do it. So yes, it was destined, but I didn't know it until I didn't realize until I became older.
It's cool that Emmitt Smith kind of flicked that switch on for you, which goes to show the importance of having a role model or somebody speaking that gets you to think and really gets you to think about your future.
Yeah, no, it's super cool because um, being coming from a middle class income family, for someone that was perceived bigger than life to speak positivity into the community and into a young little black kid, uh, it really it makes you realize that anything is possible. Anything is possible.
So how did things change for you internally? Were you working a little bit harder? Were you taking things more seriously when pursuing like going to practice?
You know what it was. Um, I what it really was that I knew I wasn't there. I wasn't ready yet, so I needed to do something to get better. And so one thing I kind of put um, in my repertoire, if you will, was to always try to do what the best person doing it is doing. Right. So what do I mean? So there's different offensive linemen that I saw that were all pro, all everything. So my logic was, well, do what they do, and maybe you'll be able to achieve that success as well. So I never did really have a how. It was more so like why, right? And I just focused on the why, and the how just presented itself to me. Maybe the first step was, all right, you need to go work out. Okay, your goal this month or this year is to increase your strength by X amount of pounds. All right. You need to be in top shape coming fall practice. And so it was just all these series of goals, and it was like constantly achieving them. And so you just start, it's like building a house. You just do it brick by brick by brick. I didn't really look at the shot clock, if you will, of saying, oh, man, this is taking a long time. It was just like, hmm, I'll get there eventually. And so I just kind of played what was in front of me, and it just worked.
Did your parents instill that growth mindset in you when you were young?
Absolutely. I think, there's a lot of, I'm pretty sure when there was a lot of subconscious talk that happened when I was a little kid, saying, you will be great. You can do anything you want. Just put your mind to it. Those conversations happen. I'm sure they happened when I was like a fetus, and, like I just know it because it's something that's ingrained in me. It's literally it's a mentality. It's a mindset. So that reinforcement from my mother and my father, it's just helped me navigate a lot of terrain throughout my entire journey.
So you went to University of Texas. I read that you won 24 of your last 25 games with the Longhorns. including a national title. You never missed a game in college with an injury. Can you take us back to what it was like your first year with the Detroit Lions after getting drafted?
Um, um, it was a complete culture shift. Um, you know, yeah, to kind of to your point, is that, coming from University of Texas, just winning a championship, two consecutive Rose Bowls, and kind of on top of the world, for lack of a better word. And now you're in the NFL, and you're with a team that has history, but just not a lot of winning history. And so what happens is that um, it's just tide and shift of like, well, man, we're not winning, but I'm getting paid, right? And what happened was, for me, I know it was like I almost lost myself of just wanting to get a paycheck and losing the passion for the game because we weren't winning, and not winning was normal. And I almost got sucked into it because everywhere I've been prior to that, we won. Like college, high school, middle school. Even our middle school won. What was that? Like 10 district championships in a row. Like we were real good. So it was just one of those things. It was a new environment, and I almost got bucked off the horse a little bit, but that's old Texas saying. But I definitely recognize that what, I needed to get refocused, and luckily there was a injury that I suffered my rookie year that kind of straightened me back up.
So, yeah, what happened there?
Yeah, so what happened was it's crazy. It happened. It was the last game of the regular season. We were playing we were playing the Dallas Cowboys in Dallas. So, um, you know, I was starting at tackle, and so this is my debut to, come back home and play in front of my hometown and show them what I got, right? And sure enough, I started and I broke my hip. So I broke my hip in a weird way, how I just kind of how I landed on it. And the crazy thing is that, and this is a kind of a testament to like having resilience. I had an injury that the exact same injury that Bo Jackson suffered from that ended his career. And so, I'm hearing everyone say, and doctors, yeah, this is a tough one to come back from, and tell me that Bo Jackson had this exact same injury, and I'm like, so you're telling me my career is over? In so many words, they were saying, yeah, but I tapped back into how I was raised, and tapped back into that mindset of like, no, I'm done when I say I'm done, and just taking ownership of like, this is my body, this is my journey, and it's going to end on my terms. So, needless to make a long story shorter, I ended up playing 9 more years in the NFL.
Wow, that is amazing. Yeah, I think few of us can relate to winning sports as an amateur and then transitioning to professional sports where you're being paid to play. And then especially if you're not winning, like how do you reconcile that? How do you walk that line? And it's a whole new world becoming a professional athlete where you're getting a paycheck and you're among teammates that some people get paid a lot, some people don't. You're like the new guy, so I imagine that you're on the lower end.
Mm-hmm.
you received some advice from veteran Damian Woody when you first started. Can you share that?
Yeah, no. That one of the things was he pretty much was just saying, hey, don't compare your check to everyone else because you know everyone is not getting to your points. Like everyone doesn't get paid the same amount. Like people get on pop on ESPN and see Dak Prescott signs for 200, whatever, right? You got to also realize that the quarterback takes up 16% of the salary. So of course you're going to pay the quarterback a hunk of change. But you got guys that are solid backups, practice squad, contributors, but they're not going to get they'll get league minimum if that, right? So so anyway, so what happened was Damien was he just came off of winning a Super Bowl at New England. Got a brand new contract. He's a free agent. He's hot. He's a everybody wants him, and so Detroit gave him probably gave him an offer he couldn't refuse, which was a lot of money. And sure enough, during training camp, you know, uh, you know, he had some toys that was very, very, very impressive. And one of them was a Rolls Royce Phantom. And the first time I saw it, I was like, dang, I want one of those. Those are nice. But and so when he kind of spoke to me, he kind of said it like everybody, pretty much like everybody don't have the same paycheck. And so I thought he was saying it as if like, yeah, I'm better than you. But no, he was actually giving me some sound advice. It's like don't try to compare your spending habits to the next person because based off of, how much money someone else has. Like it was so the whole thing was is you can buy a Rolls Royce, but it doesn't necessarily mean you can afford a Rolls Royce. And so Damien could afford one. I could just buy one. And so it was one of those moments. It's like, listen. And so thank God I did. And instead of buying a Rolls Royce, I got a house for that same price. And the equity in that house has literally tripled, and it's a rental property now.
Wow.
So yeah, so keep your money, people.
Yeah, a valuable lesson there to buy things that can appreciate. I think that even if you buy the Rolls-Royce Phantom, it's going to depreciate quickly. It's hard to keep the value of a car. So I think we always hear the phrase, keeping up with the Joneses.
Hmm.
In your world, keeping up with Damien or Tom Brady, like the temptation is much tougher. You got that great advice, but it's still easier said than done, right? Because you see like what guys are driving or what toys they're buying. How do you resist not falling into that?
You know what? It is tough. And you know what it really boils down to? It's the competitive nature that we've been trained to get to that point. And so it's one of those things. It's like it's not. It's of course it's a little ego because I mean you're a bunch of alpha males. Of course it's ego in it, but good ego, right? If that makes any sense. But I think what it I think what it really boils down to is just that competitive edge, and it's tough. And the unfortunate part is that a lot of guys, young guys, live in the now, and so it's hard to tell a 21-year-old kid to focus on the future. And like we're in our future, we just achieved our goal, so I want to be able to, you got to also think too is like some people they come from a place of poverty, violence, you know, and the opportunity to be alive the next day is slim, right? And so why not live your best life that day? Because you don't know what tomorrow may bring. And there's so many positive things to say out of that because it's so true. However, one of the little small caveats that people fail to realize is that you're in a different environment now. You know, you're gonna have new neighbors. You're gonna have different neighborhoods, different opportunities, and so it's getting used to those new opportunities to say, you know what, let me change my perspective and change my thinking, because the hostile survival mode that I used to have, I don't have that anymore. So let me change my perspective and my mindset and start thinking about what it will be 20 years from now. What will it be 40 years from now? How do I get to that point? So it just takes time. That's one thing I don't push young athletes that, they're my clients. I don't push them into save your money, save your money, save your money. I get them to challenge get them to challenge their own belief system to change their perspective on money and how it works.
So you're working with clients and you just wrote this book, The Winning Playbook. Give us a little insight into, a little more insight into this world of professional sports and NFL, because not only are paychecks sometimes bigger or the temptation to keep up with the Joneses more challenging, but like NFL, many of us don't realize that there might be like 17 paychecks.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so there's different nuances of, when it comes to, gaining wealth, specifically in just professional sports. To your point, typical job or common job is that you get paid, salary. So you get paid throughout the year. Well, here you only get paid 17 weeks out the year, and after that 17, that's it. Unless you go through the playoffs. So, and those are extra paychecks, but like a little bonus, right? But what happens is that you know you have to think about the future, because that the money that professional athletes make, they make it in a very small window, and so there's no income coming from that job during the off season, right? So how you start looking like you can't live that lifestyle of spending money all the time, because if you project your future earnings, yeah, you'll end up with no more cash. So, and you got to also think too, it's so many different components. Um, you know, these professional athletes are human beings. They have emotions. They have families. They have family conflicts and struggles and diverse situations. Yeah, they're human beings. And so I think one time it's like, I think, the unfair was sometimes unfair is that society, kind of sees them as like, uh, like a machine. Oh, they didn't get enough fantasy points. Oh, he's a bum. He's this. And it's like, that's just totally unfair criticism, because at the end of the day, they have a skill set that you can't touch. Even the guy who is on the practice squad at the bottom of the depth chart is still one of the most premier athletes that you ever run across. Right?
Fast, strong, quick.
Strong, quick, smart, like stop. So, and I feel that sometimes it's unfair that people who criticize and don't recognize these are the upper echelon of people with a skill set. So the same respect that you would, give a doctor or a doctor of psychology or like they deserve that same respect. They have a skill set that's exceptional. Um, and you know, and also kind of fun fact is that we get taxed in the cities we play in. So even though we're not residents, let's say my hometown was, the team that I played for was in the state of Texas. Well, luckily in the state of Texas, there's no income tax, state income tax. But if I play in New York, I mean, you would know better than me, right? Like you got in some places you got state tax, city tax, and county tax. I mean, and in some places like LA or California, that can be roughly about 11% total. So there's a lot of barriers when it comes to taxes that professional athletes gotta go through. So it sucks. It definitely sucks.
Yeah, it's crazy. I would have thought that it would be like which state you reside and maybe your team so that it's simplified. It's like your home state. I didn't realize that when you play games in different cities, different states, then the taxes apply accordingly.
Yeah. So that game check, if we play in St. Louis, we play in St. Louis tax. Yeah, just for that one day. Yeah.
Yeah, and then I learned from your book that, typically if somebody's working at a company and their company offers them a 401k retirement plan, you can move if you get a new job, you can move your 401k. You can't take money out until you're 59 and a half without penalty. But the NFL doesn't allow players to take money out until they're 45.
Yeah. So specifically, what you're talking about is that you can't even roll it over. So specifically, I'm already retired and I can't even roll it over into a different IRA. So right now, it's still sitting there. And to your point, is let's say I was working at McDonald's Corporation or working at Microsoft, and I left to go somewhere else. Well, literally that next day, I can roll over my money into a different IRA. Can't do that. Not till you're 45.
So those are just the rules.
Yeah, sucks. it's it's a different ball game to say the least.
So when your paycheck is concentrated into maybe 17 paychecks or 17 weeks, like you have to account for 30 plus more weeks for the rest of the year. Do you actually see guys who didn't, budget accordingly and they have to go work during the off season because they have a cash flow problem?
Yeah, yeah, because you got to also think, kind of back to our point, not every player makes, you know, a lot of money. Like they don't make, Patrick Mahomes type money. So what happens is that, um, you play at a city, let's say you're playing in Pittsburgh, right? And you're on practice squad. Salary, the annual salary is $100,000 or something like that, right? And again, $100,000, your federal tax, tax is still roughly like 40%, right? Then you still got to pay taxes if you play in different cities. So let's just say conservatively, that's another 10%. So now we're talking $50,000, right? Right after taxes. Now that's not including living, food, bills, things of that nature, agent fees. If you really look at it, like the cute number that they post on the screen, they don't make that much, right? Because there's this one entity called the Internal Revenue Service. It's like, where's my cut? So, what happens is that when you're not aware of these different tax laws, when you're not aware of this pay structure, what happens is that you get halfway through the season and recognize, oh man, I got to change some things up, right? You start saving more, less spending. It becomes one of those things. It's like, oh man, now I got to do one or two things: get some income during the off season, or pray next season I can be able to get on the 53 man roster to where I can get the league minimum salary of, depending on how long you've been in the league, of like 300,000 or 400,000 a year at the bare minimum, or have a breakout season to where someone offers you a multi-million-dollar contract. All right, but just like anything else, the more if you don't have the mentality, if you make more money, you're just going to spend more money, right? If you don't have the right mentality. So, kind of, and I know I'm kind of jumping all over the place, but at the end of the day, what it really boils down to is not how much money you make, it's how much money you keep. That's the game. If you can keep it, you can be able to allow the money you keep become the breadwinner as you transition from the human being the breadwinner. Because you want your money to do all the work, not you. So make all the money you can, professional athlete throughout their career, which is unknown. And then at that point, you can be able to put those put that money into vehicles, tools. There's so many different tools you can use and strategies to secure return. And what happens is, if you have the right mentality, you can live off the money that's making money, right? And therefore, you can have the lifestyle that you want.
Talk a little bit more about that mindset, the mindset shift that requires, because in the book you talk about you really need to change your mindset from just making a check to making that check earn money and becoming the one who writes the check. So how does one go through that transition? Because that applies to athletes, but that can apply to anyone.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, it definitely applies to anyone, because at the end of the day, these athletes are human beings just like everybody else, right? So one of the things that I would have to say, it's the caveat. No, I'm sorry, it's the precursor to the next thing. So the precursor is four things that I know. I know what I know. I know what I don't know. I know who knows what I don't know, and that's all I need to know. All right. So I keep that in mind, is recognized as like, I know where I'm at. Right. But where do I want to go? So if I want to be, you know, the next Warren Buffett, well, I need to start thinking like Warren Buffett. Well, what does Warren Buffett do? And it's the same. It's the same mindset that I had when I wanted to play football. And guess what? I have the exact same mindset when I want to be an entrepreneur. I'll be a mindset of being, a good husband or a good father. It doesn't matter, right? It's your why, right? So you take that mindset. What you do is you surround yourself around the people that are doing it, right? And I'm pretty sure numerous writers that have a certain mindset. I mean, Tony Robbins is doing something right because Grant Cardone is doing something right because he follows and is inspired by people who've done it before him, trailblazers. And so one of the things, like the tools that I would use, are pretty much the tools I would use would be tap in to building your own board of directors, right? You need to have, people that inspire you, people that can advise you, right? So at the end of the day, if I'm looking to get into business, Let me get someone who specializes in knowing the X's and O's and the small details, the minute details in business, right? Don't get your buddy that you had loyalty with and y'all used to play pickup basketball ever since y'all were in middle school. That's not it, right? You know, you don't have your barber as your cardiologist, right? Like you got to have people who are profound in what they do, who have or experts in what they do. And what happens is just like how you learned a skill set in football, you learn a skill set in business. You learn a skill set if you want to get into distribution. You learn from people who have already done it, and you got to put in your hours. No, you have to retrain. Just because you have money doesn't make you a businessman, right? You have to go back to training. Like you got to go back to school or taking courses, understanding the business inside and out. Get experience. Roger Staubach. I mean, he's a well known real estate guy, but he had to start after he finished playing football, right? And now, when people think Roger Staubach, they think of business, real estate magnate, and former Dallas Cowboy, right? So, but he's put in the hours. He's put in the dedication. Um, I think that's just kind of the skill set. No, the mind. What happens is it's just the fortitude of saying, "I want to make better for myself, so I need to train." And training yourself mentally is absolutely more important than anything.
It's a good point to have the right experts that you're working with. Can you explain what the University of Michigan did using an index universal life policy?
Yeah, yeah. So this one thing. How we teach um, IUL, Index Universal Life Policy, is it's a tool. Doesn't mean it's the only tool, right? But what's unique about it is that typically what happens is that uh, a player comes, oh, I'm sorry, an individual is typically a W 2, right? There's a certain taxable implication when it comes to a W 2. However, there's a totally different taxable implication when you're dealing with insurance, right? Specifically, index universal life policies. I won't say it's um, you know you might have to put up a blurb on the screen, but I think it's Internal Revenue Code 7704, 7702. But that it's dealing with the taxable implications behind um, tax, not tax deferred, but tax free, right? So what happened was specifically, so at Michigan, Harbaugh, real simple. They usually get a salary. Let's just say it was like, and I can't remember the specific numbers, but I want to say it was like 15 million, right? So typically, you say, "Hey, give me 15 million in the form of cash," and you're gonna do a W-2, right? So if you get 15 million, he's gonna have to pay taxes on that 15 million, right? So instead of giving it to me in cash, give it to me in the form of an insurance policy, right? So those 15 million. So what happens is the university, being that it's a nonprofit organization, they said, "Hey, we'll donate we'll donate 15 million into the policy that will yield a 65 million dollar death benefit," right? So those monies come from the university. Now, granted, the university gets a loan from a bank, right? So they take the loan from the bank. The bank gives it to the university. University puts it into the policy. University eventually has to pay it back. But guess what? They're making money because they're part beneficiary on the actual policy. So what will happen is the money that goes into the IUL over time it grows. It's the actual, an index universal life policy is the only um, insurance grade insurance grade um, investment, right? So you can actually get a return on your money, right? And the whole concept is index over time. You just don't lose money. You only participate in the gains, right? So what happens is over the course of the year, over the course of the contract of the policy, you can be able to take distributions, right? Distributions tax free, and you can be able to pay yourself, or utilize it however you deem. And what happens is they take it as a loan from, and it leverages from the actual, I won't say from the death benefit, but they take a loan and you'll take that loan, but guess what? You don't pay taxes on loans, right? So what happens is, let's say when Harbaugh is ready to retire, he can be able to get distributions every month until he dies. And whatever's left over that's deducted, he doesn't have to pay back. They just deduct it from the death benefit. So you they showed an illustration, like he can get over 15 million in distributions over the course of X amount of years. And guess what? When he passes away, the parent, his beneficiaries, which would be the university, would be partial beneficiary, and then Harbaugh's family will probably be the rest. So now he got future earnings for his family, or replaced income for his family, and then he was taking distributions while he was alive, and it was tax free. So I always use the analogy: would you prefer to pay taxes on a handful of seeds, or would you rather pay taxes on a field full of crops? Right. So that's just one strategy. And the beauty is that the University of Michigan, once they got the money back, guess what? They write it off. So they don't. No one bank made money on interest. The university made their money back by writing it off, and Harbaugh in that situation will be able to benefit tax-free income um, throughout the rest of his life. Sounds like a win-win-win.
Great advisors on that one. And it made Harbaugh, like, I think the highest paid NCAA football coach in the country.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Is like he'll see every part of that 15 million and more. And guess what? And the university loves it because guess what? They can write it off, all of it, because it was just a donation or a contribution. So, and then you also see that Jimbo Fisher and then Nick Saban, they're doing the same thing. Like, I know if I even decided to get into college sports, like, yeah, don't pay me, don't pay me no W-2. Give me an insurance policy and call it even. Yeah, I'm telling you. Like,
You
yeah,
can
and
be
guess what?
taking out you can be taking out a loan or getting disbursements while you're working too. So you're still getting a paycheck.
Yeah,
It's
there's no
not
40.
it's you don't have to wait until retirement, right?
Yeah, yeah. No, that's why I said retirement, right? Because you got to allow the funds to accumulate and grow over time. $15 million earning 3% interest, conservatively. I mean, you can do the math. 10, 15 years, oh, it's making some money, right? It's making some money. And the insurance company is making some money. Like, insurance, banks, and real estate have never failed, ever, ever. Like, yeah, someone closed the bank here. Yeah, they were just moving money around to get to the next thing. So, um, yeah, like that's just, like I said, that's just one tool. And that's the beauty of the book. We kind of tap on a little, we don't want to get too inundated with all the things that we know. That's why it kind of leads to follow up. But there's so many strategies and things you can do, whether it's, um, yeah, it's endless. It's literally endless. But at the end of the day, the products change, right? There's going to be there's going to be a there's going to be a 3.0 IUL at some point. But who cares about the product? It's the mentality. If you don't have the mentality, it doesn't matter. Doesn't matter.
Well, it runs through your book, and it must run through your life, the importance of embracing wanting to learn all the time and always improving, right? Physically, your mind, and learning, because that's how you're going to live your best life.
No question. I agree 100%. That's the thing that I really love about this journey in this book. It allows me to live my purpose, and my purpose is to empower people. So it's always great to see people. I mean, I've talked from different people from different walks of life: black, white, Hispanic, Asian. Um, you know, in their 20s all the way up to their 70s, talking about financial empowerment and just things you can do to be able to set aside, and create generational wealth. It's never too late. If you're still on this earth, there are solutions. There are there's strategies that you can do right now, and that's the beauty of this book. It's like, yeah, it's coming from a perspective of a professional athlete, that gives a little entertainment, right? But it's truly for everyone. Everyone. I would say at least high school and up.
Well, I love that you shared your purpose and your vision with us. Talk a little bit about why that's so important. And especially since in your book you write, I didn't get drafted high. I didn't make the $60 million deal or land a fully guaranteed contract. Talk a little bit about the elusive mega deals being in the NFL, which you joke stands for not for long.
Yeah, right. Um, first, it's, you know, I truly enjoyed my time playing, right? It was just part of my journey, right? It wasn't the definition of my entire life. And so, when it comes to like my purpose, it's it's really like it was me seeking God, and I kind of talked about that. It's like I didn't have really what my purpose was after I was playing.
Jonathan, you got to share this story because
Yeah.
your dad told you to have a relationship with God, and you took that literally. You actually set a table with two place
Yeah,
settings.
yeah, I actually did it.
Take us
I
back to
actually,
that moment.
yeah. So what happened was, you know, you having this frustration. I mean, frustration with taxes, and everybody wants something from me, and it's just this constant like I can't do this for the rest of my life. There's got to be a better way, right? And so I had a speaking engagement that I went to, and I was like, opening up, if you will, for an author, Bob Bodine. And so it was like a young professionals thing. And so I talked about organizational leadership type stuff, right? And so after I went to the audience and listened to Bob Bodine, and he was talking about his book at the time that was out, which was Two Chairs. And so I was like, I'm hearing Bob Bodine speak, and I'm like, man, that sounds exactly like the same thing that my dad was telling me 15 years ago, right? Is to have a relationship with God. And at the time, it's like, I hear you, Dad, but I don't really know how to do that, right? So I'm just kind of like going through the motions. So, so at that point, when I'm hearing Bob Building speak, it really resonated with me. And I said, you know what? I'm going to read the book. So, read the book. I was like, that seems pretty cool, right? So I said, you know what? I got some questions to ask God myself. So at the end of the day, what the book is, kind of, a big part of the book is that if you had two chairs, you had one for yourself, who would the other one be for? A lot of people, probably would say, Warren Buffett, Michelle Obama, Barack Obama, Winston Churchill. That would be the other person, right? And he said, and pretty much he was suggesting instead of that second chair being like a person, let it be God and have a conversation with God. And so I did it. Like I did it, like literally did it, like physically did it, right? And so I'm having a conversation with God and asking questions, asking questions. Conversation goes about, and I say conversation is because as I'm talking and asking these questions, I'm getting discernment of everything I'm asking. And, kind of to share is like two of the biggest things was what's my purpose? And, I'm asking to have, three things. What is my purpose? How can I get true financial freedom? And how can you expand my territory? Right. And so with that, what happens is I run into the next day, I run into what is now my co-author, right, and business partner, and created a network of brilliant individuals that has allowed us to do what we do in business, which is high level finance. Now, I mean, I got a business degree background, but like people would consider me like a banking guy. I'm like a banker. And I'm like, wow, right? But it's crazy because of the opportunities, the relationships that have been granted to me. It all came from me having a conversation with God. And it was really that simple. So that's why I would assume that I have a certain level of confidence when it comes to financial empowerment. Because literally God said, all right, I got you. Turn around, go through that door, do this, do that. And it's so simple for me because I know exactly where I'm going. I don't know how I'm gonna get there, but I know exactly where I'm going. And if I really think about it, it was the same thing that happened when I decided I wanted to play in the NFL when I was in seventh, eighth grade. It's the exact same thing. So with all that, it was just, wow. Like time and time again, God, you know, shares His grace upon me and allows me to be able to truly live my purpose and live, happy. I mean, as you can see here, like I coach a football team. I get paid like $5,000 a year. I don't do it for the money, and I can say that paycheck with the headline. Jonathan Scott gets paid $5,000 a year. Yeah,
That is powerful, Jonathan.
yeah.
Was the meeting with your co-author, Rob Welsh, was that a chance meeting, or was that a meeting that had, like, you had an appointment after your two chairs?
Yeah. You know what it was it was just a conversation, and someone saying, I need you to meet this guy, right? And it was one of those things. I think it's literally it's the grace of God, or the mysteriousness of God, of like, hey, just follow me. I got you. Don't worry about it. Just follow me. And what happened was, it's it was destiny. It was destined that I meet this individual. It was destined that I come in contact with this information, because it's all necessary for my journey, right? I'm not saying that, someone's a deity or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, I was supposed to meet this person at this journey in my life, and it's turned out to be very fruitful because I've seen the results and how I've been able to help other people. And, and the beauty is that if it wasn't for other people in my life, I never would have gotten to this point. And specifically is just my community and, how I grew up. It was so many people that if I had a thank you, like it'd be so many people I have to thank, like it would be unfair because I might accidentally miss someone. But it was so many people that helped me get to this point. And so I think it's beyond necessary for me to leave something on this earth of positivity. Because, again, I don't know when my expiration date is. Yeah.
Well, that is very powerful and a sign of a good life that you have this long list of people who have helped you along the way. And now you, in turn, want to give back to people and leave your own legacy. I'd like to ask all the Inspired Money guests, how do you define success?
Oh, well. How do I would define, it's interesting. We had this discussion with my personal development coach. And I think the way you define success, it's different for it's different for every person. I think for me, I would define success is growth for me, and this is just me. Growth and perseverance. Being able to grow, being able to go to a situation to where maybe you reacted versus responding, and being able to maybe down the line run into a very similar conflict and be able to handle it so gracefully to where next thing you know, fruit comes from it. Like positivity comes from it, or an even bigger or better opportunity, and that's successful because there's growth and resilience, and being able to weather the storm, if you will. So for me, that's what success is. Some other people may see it otherwise, but that's just me.
Well, thank you, Jonathan. Thanks for sharing your stories with us and your lessons about your journey in sport and finding financial independence and financial success and helping others to achieve the same. Tell the Inspired Money listeners and viewers where they can follow you and find out more.
Yeah, absolutely. You can go to yourwinningplaybook.com. Again, yourwinningplaybook.com. There's a nice little landing page for, there it is. So yourwinningplaybook.com. And you can learn about us, me and Rob, the co-author, a little bit about what we do from a business standpoint. If you have any inquiries or questions, you can type it in there. And then, last but not least, you can click on the link and get you the book right now. And it's on every retailer's, numerous retailers, Barnes and Nobles, Amazon, Target, the list goes on. So we had a lot of help from Simon & Schuster when it comes to distribution. So they're a partner as well. So yeah, check it out. If you happen to get it on Amazon, write a review on Amazon. That helps us out, with the algorithm. So, but yeah, you can check it out. Everything you need is there on the website, on the landing page.
Fantastic. Thanks so much, Jonathan.
Thank you.
So what was your favorite Inspired Money moment? It's really hard to be a professional athlete, and playing football in the NFL is especially tough. According to recent player data, The average NFL career is just 3.3 years. Imagine getting tackled by Jonathan, who is 6'6", 318 pounds. If I was about to be tackled, my only choice would be to pray. So Jonathan's faith was my favorite inspired money moment. I love that he set a table for two to have a conversation with God. Who does that? Even if you're not religious, big things can come to those willing to surrender to the process. Do the right things, but be open to great opportunities. If you had a different favorite inspired money moment, please post a comment or share it in the Inspired Moneymakers Facebook group at inspiredmoney.fm/Facebook. Be sure to subscribe to my email that goes out every 2 weeks. You'll get our market outlook and insights. Subscribe at inspiredmoney.fm/newsletter. Thank you for joining me on this mission. Have an inspired week and do something that scares you, because that's where the magic happens.